Namaskar. Good evening. On behalf of the IC Center for Governance and the India International Center, I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the 6th Sardar Patel Lecture on Governance. We started our first lecture with the former Vice President, Shri Venkataya Naidu. Then we had Dr. Kasturi Rangan. After that, we had Governor Arif Muhammad Khan. Then we had Dr. Karan Singh. And last year, we had the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar. Today is the 150th birth anniversary of the great architect of India, the Iron Man, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And we are very fortunate indeed and honored to have Shri Ajit Doval present here this evening to deliver the 6th Sardar Patel Lecture on Governance. We are also grateful to Dr. Harivansh, Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, for presiding over this function this evening. Before I request Shri Prabhat Kumar to introduce the guests and his welcome address, may I request you all to kindly switch off your mobile phones or put them in the, whatever you choose, because that ring is very irritating. Thank you.
Shri Harivanshi, Shri Doval, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first greet you on the National Unity Day, which also is the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel. I think it's very fitting that we are having this Sardar Patel Lecture of 2025 on this special day. And as Mahesh ji just told you, that we have had 5 men of great substance who have already addressed us in this series. A statesman, a scientist, a political thinker, a philosopher, and a diplomat. And if you read this, we have a compilation of their lectures. If you read this compilation, it reads like a fresh treatise on public governance. And today, we bring to you a security expert par excellence as the 6th speaker in the series. Friends, the IC Center for Governance has been an active think tank for the last 22 years. It started in 2003, and it does collective thinking on issues of governance. It also organizes conferences and workshops, organizes capacity building programs on ethical governance, and brings out an annual Journal of Governance. Talking of governance, I think all of you are experiencing that over the last few years, there have been changes in the governance in the global and national contexts. New narratives are emerging. Among those new narratives, intolerance and mutual distrust among nations, coupled with the meddling in the affairs, internal affairs of other countries, These are, I think, bringing the world to a brink. They are undermining the effectiveness of international institutions. There are major nations in the world, which are either ignoring international law and norms, or they are applying them selectively in their own national interest. It appears that the world is fracturing into geopolitical blocks. Trust has eroded to such an extent that economic tools, financial tools, they are being used as weapons of statecraft. As the twists and turns of the recent trade wars show, that we have lost sight of the basic interest of mankind. We have forgotten to focus on the long-term benefits of cooperation, and we have fallen into the cycle of retaliation. And on top of it, we also have these powerful technologies which are posing an existential threat to mankind. Artificial general intelligence, which is as yet unregulated, could have unforeseen consequences. All this, in summary, I think we are developing some centrifugal forces. And what is most important for a nation like ours is that we should have robust nation building. Robust nation building not only for growth, but also to meet the challenges of internal and external threats to our stability and to our sovereignty. I remember Sardar Patel, decades back, said something which I think is still very, very relevant. He said, and I quote, "The main task before India is to consolidate herself into a well-knit and united power. Caste and community will disappear. We have to speedily forget all these things. Such boundaries temper our growth." How prophetic. I think in this situation, what is required is robust growth of our nation building. And to make some sense of this turbulent situation in governance, we have Shri Ajit Doval, a seasoned bureaucrat, an intelligence expert who has been our national security advisor for more than a decade. He needs no introduction. And apart from handling very important assignments during his long and distinguished career, he also played a major role, I remember, way back in 1975, in the integration of Sikkim into the Indian Union. And later, much later, he acted as our main negotiator in the hijack of IC-814 in 1999. On both occasions, I also had a small role to play. Shri Doval was the founder director of the Vivekananda International Foundation. For 5 years, he led the affairs of the foundation, and after that, he took over as a national security advisor in 2014. He has been decorated with many awards, including the prestigious Kirti Chakra and President's Police Medal. Ajit Doval speaks very rarely, and we are grateful that he is here today to talk to us. But when he speaks, he doesn't mince words. I remember on Operation Sindoor, he said, very pithily, he said, Operation Sindoor is not just a strike. It is a message of an intent and precision. We hit 9 terror targets in 23 minutes. And there was no miss. We missed none. And we are fortunate to have Dr. Harivanshji with us today to preside over this event. He also doesn't need any introduction. He has been the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha for the last 7 years. He is an authority on the political climate of the country. He is an eminent journalist and was the media advisor to then Prime Minister Chandrasekhar. In 1989, I remember, he took over the reins of an obscure newspaper in Bihar, Prabhat Khabar. And he took it to great heights during his editorship of that newspaper. It became the voice of the people. It was known for investigative journalism, like in the cases of Fodder scam, etc. But what is more important is that Shri Harivanshji is a man of great intellect and disarming simplicity. He brings an aura of dignity and grace in the political mayhem of today. So I think we should give a big hand to Dovalji and to Harivanshji. And with these few words, I will now request Harivanshji to make his presidential remarks. Thank you.
नमस्कार। सम्मानित राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा सलाहकार श्री अजीत डोवाल जी, आईसी इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर गवर्नेंस के माननीय अध्यक्ष झारखंड के पूर्व राज्यपाल श्री प्रभात कुमार जी, इस संस्थान के माननीय उपाध्यक्ष श्री महेश कपूर जी, इस संस्थान से जुड़े शांति नारायण जी, आप सभी मित्रों को मेरा नमस्कार पुनः। सरदार पटेल की जन्म जयंती पर सबसे पहले उनकी स्मृति को प्रणाम। इस आयोजन के लिए हमें यहाँ पुनः होने का मौका देने के लिए आईसी सेंटर फॉर गवर्नेंस का पुनः आभार। आदरणीय श्री प्रभात कुमार जी और उनकी टीम की प्रतिबद्धता की मैं प्रशंसा करता हूँ। पिछले 6 वर्षों में से 4 बार मुझे इस समारोह में उपस्थित होने का मौका मिला है और जिस पैशन से, जिस तैयारी से और जिस बिल्कुल समय से यह कार्यक्रम होता है और जिस तरह के वक्ताओं को आमंत्रित करते हैं, वह सीखने योग्य है। हर साल नियमित सरदार साहब का पुण्य स्मरण का यह व्याख्यानमाला बहुत ही अपने स्तर का प्रभावी व्याख्यानमाला है। उन्हें हमने कैबिनेट सचिव के रूप में काम करते देखा, पुनः झारखंड के राज्यपाल के रूप में एक अत्यंत चैलेंजिंग स्टेट में किस तरह से उन्होंने एक आदर्श और ऊंचे मापदंड स्थापित किए, विश्वविद्यालयों से लेकर अन्य प्रशासन में मैं उसे देखा हूं और उसका प्रशंसक रहा हूं। उसके बाद लगातार आईसी सेंटर फॉर गवर्नेंस के माध्यम से गवर्नेंस कैसे बेहतर हो सके, ह्यूमन हो सके, मॉरल हो सके, इसके लिए उनके प्रयासों का मैं साक्षी और कई चीज़ों में हिस्सेदार रहा हूं। इस वर्ष व्याख्यान के लिए ठीक ही उन्होंने कहा जिनके परिचय की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। श्री आदरणीय अजित डोभाल जी आपके बीच है, राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा सलाहकार। यह अत्यंत आज की दुनिया की जो चुनौतियां हैं और भारत के अंदर, उस पर बोलने वाले सबसे उपयुक्त और सटीक व्यक्ति। वह खुद सरदार वल्लभ भाई राष्ट्रीय पुलिस अकादमी की देन है और अकादमी का जो मूल मंत्र रहा है सत्यम सेवा संरक्षण, उन्होंने अपने कैरियर में उसको बिल्कुल साकार किया है। लोक धारणा यही है कि उनकी कार्यशैली, देश के प्रति उनकी निष्ठा, सरदार पटेल की राष्ट्र दृष्टि भारत को कैसे श्रेष्ठ बनाए उसके प्रति प्रतिबद्ध है। 2018 में प्रसार भारती द्वारा आयोजित आपका सरदार पटेल स्मृति व्याख्यान हमने सुना। उसमें देश की इच्छा शक्ति, भारतीय लोकतंत्र की मिलीजुली सरकारों का असर, लोकतंत्र और कानून का राज, मीडिया और नकारात्मक नैरेटिव जैसे कुछ विषयों पर अत्यंत रोचक, प्रभावी पर विचार संपन्न उनके विचार हमने सुने बड़े मौलिक ढंग से। उनका हाल में एक मैंने व्याख्यान सुना आईआईटी चेन्नई के कन्वोकेशन में, बहुत ही इनरिचिंग। कई बार यह सवाल होता है कि हम सरदार साहब को क्यों याद करें। मेरे जैसा सामान्य आदमी 3 बड़ी मामूली चीज़ों के कारण उन्हें आज के दिन ही नहीं हमेशा याद रखता है। पहला, जिस बड़े मुल्क में, जिस देश में आज हम सांस लेते हैं, इसके आकार, इसकी विविधता पर फक्र करते हैं, उसके मौजूदा स्वरूप को गढ़ने में और उसे यह रूप देने में अगर मैं कहूं कि एकमात्र सबसे अधिक उनकी निर्णायक भूमिका रही तो शायद गलत नहीं होगा। यह उनकी देन है, इसलिए उनके प्रति कृतज्ञता की बदौलत हम उन्हें याद करें। सरदार पटेल ने सिर्फ अपनी आयरन विल से ही तब भारत के 562 रजवाड़ों का एकीकरण उस समय किया जब देश, उन परिस्थितियों को हम याद करें, धार्मिक आधार पर लगभग बढ़ चुका था, सांप्रदायिक उन्माद चरम पर था और भारत एक डोमिनियन स्टेट था। माउंटबेटन गवर्नर जनरल थे और भारत की फौजें अंग्रेजी जनरलों के अधीन थी। तब अत्यंत प्रतिकूल हालात में उस एक व्यक्ति ने अपनी क्षमता, दृष्टि और प्रशासनिक कौशल से इस देश को यह स्वरूप दिया। हम याद रखते हैं कि सिवाय ऑपरेशन पोलो के हैदराबाद में कहीं कोई सख्ती नहीं हुई और कश्मीर में भी भारतीय सेनाएं तब गईं एकीकरण के बाद जब कबायली आक्रमणकारी बाहरी थे। 30 अगस्त को पूज्य बापू ने उन्हें पत्र लिखा 47 में। कौन जानता था, उसकी मैं पंक्ति कोट कर रहा हूँ, कौन जानता था कि तुमको एक साथ इतनी विकट परिस्थितियों का सामना करना पड़ेगा। उन परिस्थितियों में यह असाधारण कार्य सचमुच हम सब के लिए याद करने योग्य और सीखने योग्य है। और इस तरह की बहुत सारी चीज़ें, इसलिए जो स्टेट्समैनशिप थी उनकी, उनके प्रति विज़न। दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय के प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर नीरजा सिंह की पुस्तक में पढ़ रहा था, महात्मा गांधी जी और सरदार पटेल के बीच पत्रों का आदान प्रदान, दोनों के बीच बड़ा गहरा आत्मीय रिश्ता, लेकिन साफ ओपिनियन गांधी जी के सामने रखने में भी सरदार साहब जरा भी हिचकते नहीं थे। उन्होंने 30 के दशक में देसी रियासतों में प्रजामंडलों को सीधा समर्थन देने की बात की। महात्मा जी वो रजवाड़ों की स्वायत्तता का सम्मान करते हुए प्रजामंडलों को सिर्फ नैतिक समर्थन देने के पक्ष में थे। 1939 में दूसरा विश्व युद्ध शुरू होने के कारण रियासतों की यह मुहिम थम गई। हमें पुनः याद करना चाहिए उनके विज़न के बारे में जब चर्चा करते हैं। सरदार साहब ने 1950 में पंडित जी को चीन के इरादों पर साफ लिखा था। उसकी एक पंक्ति थी, उन्होंने 7 नवंबर 50 को जो पत्र लिखा, चीनी सरकार ने अपने शांतिपूर्ण इरादों के बारे में हमें भरमाया है। मुझे लगता है कि इस नाजुक वक्त में वो हमारे राजदूत को यकीन दिलाने में कामयाब हो गए हैं कि वो तिब्बत का शांतिपूर्ण हल चाहते हैं। क्या फोरसाइट और क्या विज़न था। आज की पीढ़ी को यह भी कम मालूम है कि देश बनाने की उनमें क्या विज़न और क्षमता थी। जिस अमूल को आज, जिस पर हम फक्र करते हैं, दूध क्रांति का जो प्रतीक माना जाता है, उसके प्रेरणा स्रोत सरदार पटेल थे। 46 में खेड़ा जिले में जो दूध उत्पादक किसान थे, उनका कोऑपरेटिव बनवाकर उन्होंने बॉम्बे की पोल्सन कंपनी के खिलाफ किसानों को एकजुट करने, उन्हें शांतिपूर्ण ढंग से अपना हड़ताल करने का जो किया, जिसमें मोरारजी देसाई को भेजा, आज उसी की देन है कि आमूल दुनिया में विख्यात है। और विज़न के अलावा क्या चरित्र था। सरदार साहब के बारे में बहुत सारे ऐसी चीज़ें हैं, 2-3 चीज़ें सिर्फ मैं याद करना चाहूँगा। हम सब जानते हैं कि जब वकालत में थे तब बहस करते समय उन्हें तार मिला अपनी पत्नी के न रहने का, फिर भी उन्होंने अपने दायित्व के प्रति किस तरह से अपना फ़र्ज़ निभाया। अहमदाबाद में मेयर रहते हुए किस तरह उन्होंने काम किया है, द देन वहाँ के जो ब्रिटिश अधिकारी थे उन्होंने उल्लेख किया है। और आज की राजनीति को देखते हुए ये बात असंभव लगेगी कि सरदार साहब ने अपने पुत्र दाहिया भाई को दिल्ली से दूर रहने को कहा, हमेशा रखा, क्योंकि कोई उनके माध्यम से सिफारिश लेकर उन तक ना पहुँचे। बिना प्रचार प्रसार के इस आदर्श को वो जिए। बेटी मणिबेन पटेल के बारे में आप पढ़ेंगे तो वो आपके अंदर को प्रभावित करेगा, किस तरह से मणिबेन पटेल ने अपना जीवन गुजारा। और आज जो ब्यूरोक्रेसी है जिसे स्टील फ्रेम कहते हैं वो सरदार साहब की देन है। उन्होंने सिविल सर्विस का, उन्हें पैट्रन सेंट हम कहते हैं, 15 अक्टूबर 48 को गृह मंत्रालय से संविधान सभा को पत्र लिखा कि क्यों इन सेवाओं को हमें रिटर्न करना चाहिए, और उसका पत्र ड्राफ्ट किया। उसमें उन्होंने लिखा, मैं कोट करता हूँ, आई नीड हार्डली एम्फसाइज दैट an efficient, disciplined and contented service assured of its prospects as a result of diligent and honest work is a sine qua non of sound administration under a democratic regime। बहुत बहस हुई संविधान सभा में और भारतीय सेवाओं की भर्ती और सेवा शर्तों को केंद्र या राज्य सरकार के विवेकों पर उन्होंने नहीं छोड़ा, उन्हें संविधान का संरक्षण दिया। और सरदार पटेल साहब ने संविधान सभा को यह भी लिखा, Constitutional safeguards are the best mediums of providing these services and are likely to prove lasting। बहुत सारी बहसें हुई और बहुत लोगों ने तब ICS को पैम्पर्ड कहते हुए उन्हें अंग्रेज़ों के ज़माने में उनकी भूमिका का याद दिलाया, लेकिन सरदार साहब अपनी बात पर अडिग रहे। उन्होंने कहा लास्ट में, लर्न टू स्टैंड अपॉन योर प्लेस्ड वर्ड्स, ये उन्होंने अपेक्षा की। सरदार पटेल ब्यूरोक्रेसी को सहयोगी मानते थे, वो उसी प्रकार आदर देने के पक्षधर थे, लेकिन वे अधिकारियों की पूरी सत्यनिष्ठा और ईमानदारी और समर्पण की अपेक्षा रखते थे। अपने सचिवों को उन्होंने अपनी राय के खिलाफ स्पष्ट टिप्पणी लिखने की हिदायत दी थी कि आप लिख सकते हैं, आप फ्री हैं। आज जब मैं अनेक राज्य की राजधानियों में देखता हूं कि कई लोग जब कहते हैं अधिकारियों के साथ कि आपको जब हम सत्ता में आएंगे देखेंगे, तो मुझे सरदार साहब की दूरदृष्टि याद आती है। उस सरदार साहब को 90 में भारत रत्न मिला, लगभग 42 वर्षों बाद। जिस व्यक्ति ने दधीची की तरह इस देश की आज़ादी के लिए अपना जीवन होम कर दिया, अपनी हड्डी गला दी, उसकी स्मरण के लिए इतने वर्ष हमें लगे। लेकिन लोगों के बीच उनका स्मरण कैसा है कि आज जो स्टैच्यू ऑफ यूनिटी उनकी बनी है, वहाँ 2021 में वहाँ जाने वालों की संख्या 34 लाख थी, 24 में वो 58 लाख पहुँच चुकी है। हमेशा की तरह मैं IC इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ गवर्नेंस द्वारा आयोजित इस अवसर पर सरदार पटेल द्वारा स्थापित आदर्शों के परिप्रेक्ष्य में देश की उपलब्धियों और संभावित भावी चुनौतियों पर चर्चा मैं भी सुनूंगा, और इसके सर्वश्रेष्ठ जो जानकार विशेषज्ञ जिन पर देश का भरोसा है उन्हें हम सुनेंगे। और हर पूर्व वक्ता कोशिश होती है IC सेंटर की, जो मैं देखता रहा हूँ, इसी तरह के श्रेष्ठ लोग आए जो देश को एक विजन दे सकें। पुनः IC सेंटर को धन्यवाद, और हमें यहाँ होने का मौका देने के लिए और सुनने का मौका देने के लिए भी पुनः बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
May I now request the National Security Advisor, Shri Ajit Doval, to deliver his address.
Dr. Harivansh Narayan Singh Ji, Honorable Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, a very distinguished parliamentarian, scholar and author, and being a great authority on most contemporary issues with a historical perspective and a vision of a futurist. Respected Shri Prabhat Kumar Ji, former Commerce Secretary, whom the fraternity of Indian civil servants look as a great role model, who has got a very distinguished career and probably was responsible for many of the initiatives that the government had taken. I'm very grateful to him for giving me this opportunity to address the sixth lecture of Sardar Patel, his 150th anniversary. It's a very special occasion. It's a very special audience, and I'm very grateful for giving me this opportunity. Shri Mahesh Kapoorji, former Advisor, Planning Commission, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to talk on a subject about which probably I know the least, and probably most of you sitting here have done more. That is about the governance. But still, I would like to share a perspective of what a security man looks at the process of governance. I definitely believe that governance has a very seminal role in the process of nation building and in the process of securing a nation and making it achieve its goals and aspirations. It is indeed very befitting that today, in 2025, we should be reinventing Sardar Patel. Probably the need to understand him, the time to emulate him and understand his vision, his clarity of thought, his vision is required in India today more than ever before. Not only India is under transition, India is having an orbital shift from a certain type of governance, from a certain type of a government structures, societal structures, but also its place in the global order. The world is also undergoing a great transformation. And whenever the change comes, the most important things are your clarity of vision. You're not getting blinded by the dust and the storms, not getting overawed by the noise and the threats. You're not getting subdued by the adversities and the possible threats. You have to prepare yourself and you have to equip yourself. And that is what Sardar Patel's whole life was all about. Whether it was pre-independence, where he played a very seminal role as a warrior of freedom movement, supporting Mahatma Gandhi in all his ventures, but also in a short time, in the post-independent period, that he was able not to unify the states, but to integrate India, bring up that understanding in 560 princely states that it was in their interest that India as a state survives, strengthens, and is able to take care of this old civilization which was experimenting with converting itself into a nation state. Converting a civilization into a nation state is a stupendous task. He knew that it can only be done through very powerful governance mechanism. The government has got to think and do beyond what is normally expected. And that is how he envisaged, and I'm grateful that Dr. Harvanshji told us about how his vision of the All India services, he's the patron saint, the mentor of that. Despite resistance and strong prejudice at that time in the civil services, probably he was able to prevail that without the steel structure, we will not be able to create a new India. Ladies and gentlemen, power of the nations, whether they are powerful or weak, or the comprehensive national power, is a very abstract word. In reality, it is the power of the governments, and it is the power of the governance. when the governments are weak, when the governments are confused, when the governments are imbued by the self-interest, probably the consequences also are similar. And these governments work through institutions. And in the task of nation building, the most important matter are the people who build and nurture these institutions, who strengthen these institutions, because these institutions provide the governance, and the governance creates the nations and the powerful states. Sardar Patel's role in this is self-evident. The rise and fall of the great empires, monarchies, oligarchies, aristocracies, or democracies is actually the history of their governance. Edward Gibbon, in 6 volumes on the decline of Roman power, way back about 1788 or something, there he wrote those volumes. The whole book is about the intrigues of the Roman Empire, instances of its bad governance, corruption, economic mismanagement, security failures. And the end of it, it all boils down to the Roman Empire fell because it was administered and governed badly. Same is the story of whether it's the French Revolution, or the Tsarist Russia, or the Mughal Empire, they declined. In the post-war period, out of 37 countries that faced various degrees of degradation, 28 failed or got degraded or got balkanized because of their poor governance. And the recent cases of the change of regimes through non-constitutional methods in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and others were actually the gilding cases of the bad governance. And that is how the governance matters. Transcending beyond time and space, there are some commonalities. Why some states rise and why some fall? Why there are times when, what is there that happens which leads to their bad governance and ultimately the erosion of their powers? One has been the authoritarianism. Not that I am going in history, but I am telling it because it remains relevant today. It has remained relevant for the past 3,000 years of the recorded history that we know of the states, structures, and the governments as they existed, whether it was the Greek states or it was the modern democracies and even the oligarchies and others. So authoritarianism, that is oppressive and discriminating laws, poor delivery of justice, marginalized population, human rights violations, they all constituted or added to the fall of these nations. Second important thing has been the institutional decay. The institutes start decaying, both civil and military. Security structures, their armies become corrupt or oppressive, or their internal security structures collapse. Bureaucracies become inept, slow, corrupt, and insensitive. There is no accountability. People do not know why they are doing what they are doing. I tell you an example that once when Bismarck, before the Russia war, had visited Germany, and he went to a forest area for seeing, and he found a military man standing at a post. He asked him, "What are you here for?" He said, "I do not know, but I had been on this duty for the last 3 years. So he said, I would have to check up. And then he checked up. And then he found that his commanding officer also did not know, but he said, my battalion has been here for the last 20 years. And this is one point that has been given to us to guard. He said, what are you guarding against and against whom? He says, that I am not aware, but I can check it up and find out whether in my regiment there is some records. She went through that, and then, after long research and others, Bismarck found that about 150 years back, when Zardina had come on a horseback for a hunting, and she lost her necklace in the forest. She could not locate it there, so returned, but asked her ADC to put somebody on the guard duty and send some people tomorrow to search it. Probably some people came or did not come, but that necklace was not found. Necklace was forgotten to everyone. Nobody knows what happened to the necklace. But for 180 years, the sentry was still on the duty. This is how the decay starts, and that is when Bismarck predicted that this nation and this regime will not last. And that's what happened. Another factor is the economic failures, scarcities, the food. Actually, a large number of civilizations, because of the economic meltdown. Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and other civilizations, now increasing evidence is coming forth that probably the essentials of survival will become scarce over there. The food, the water, the inflation, oppressive taxes, social unrest, they become the cause of the state failures. They are the old ones. They still exist. They still exist, and they continue to beleaguer the emerging societies. But the new ones have cropped up and have made the situation more complex. What are these new factors which have started impacting on the process of governance and has made the task more challenging? One is the centrality of the common man. The common man has become more aware. He has become more aspirational. He has higher expectations from the state. And the state has got a vested interest in keeping him satisfied, particularly in the democracies. In the same vein, what has happened that while democracy has proved to be one of the most effective and one of the most enduring system of governance, it has created its own problems. It leads to partisan politics. There are dividends in division. Now, division is a very strange phenomenon. If there are 100 people and I have got a following of 25, I can come to power if I can divide the rest in groups that each is smaller than 25. It is not an aspiration to make it 51, but it's an aspiration to divide the rest of the society in as many fragments as you can. And that fragmentation is something which is the danger of this thing. That comes, after all, it's a package. It comes with its good things, but we have got to guard against the possible, the negative side of it. The third is the role of money. And I'm not talking about India, I'm talking about the world over. Wherever there are these democracies, there is a money that plays a role. Now, in whatever role, there's a legitimate role, illegitimate role, legally approved, illegally approved, whatever is that. But the fact is this, money plays a role. So, your idealism, your vision, your thought, your patriotism somehow has got to have a strong support of the money. And there is often eclipsing of national interests by the Western interest. And by the Western interest, I do not mean here purely in a very negative personal sense of being corrupt or lack of integrity. But Western interest is that your very, very localized, smaller interest in which the larger national interests become probably less important. So what do we need to counter it, to address it? Both the old ones and the new challenges that have emerged. One is, of course, that we have got to look at our entire system of laws and the rules and the procedures and the processes and make them more people-friendly by the laws and the rules and the systems which are strong but are people-friendly. Our policies and plans should meet aspirations of the people. Basic needs of the people must be addressed, and the people must be given a sense of security. It is not sufficient to say that we have taken sufficient security measures. What is equally important is that we are able to make every Indian feel that he is secure, both from forces internal and external. While we can deal with them effectively as per the laws and as per the policies of the government, but we can create the deterrence that can convince them credibly that we have got the will and we have got the strength to respond to any threats in a way and in a manner that we consider best for our national security. There is also a very special need for taking care of the deprived, the weak, the marginalized, and give them a sense of empowerment. And particularly, this thing of women is extremely important. The need for protection, the need for safety, the need for giving a sense of equality and empowerment to women is necessary for the good governance in the modern day world. And I think one of the other requirements is that it is not only the capacity of the government to have good laws, good structures, and good systems, but more importantly, an ability to implement them effectively. This is important particularly in the case of India. We find that our implementational capabilities are much short of what they need to be. And there are many reasons for that, but the fact remains that it is there. Technology is going to play a very, very important role, both in governance and in eroding the power of the state. We have got to exploit the technology that can ensure greater transparency, accountability, deliverance of service to the common man, grievance redressals, also creating awareness in the society, and concurrently, we have got to protect the civil society from threats like the cyber threats or many other threats that the technology poses. One study that has been made by an American think tank was about the role of technology in transforming the civilizations and the states and their character. It took about 1 million years for the caveman to find the fire. That was a great transforming technology. And then, from there, it took him another 50,000 years to discover the metal. That is when he found that the fire is able to melt certain stones which become into a solidified metal. And then another 30,000 years to invent the wheel. And after the wheel, the similar things about the steam engine, and less than this thing that could be about the electricity and about the plane. So the time gap started getting reduced. Printing press in 15th century brought another very major thing when there is a revolution in knowledge and informatics. artificial intelligence is going to condense and transform the society in 2 years' time, what it has taken about 2 million years for the human beings to change. It will change the way you live, it will change the way you think, it will change the way you dress, it will change the way that your wars are fought. If you put the artificial intelligence in the field of the nuclear, those things will probably, if we have got 31 ingredients, we see that if we meet, the nuclear bomb goes automatically. And the world will be totally endangered. If the human element starts becoming absent relatively, the dangers of this technology would be very, very high. And now that this is the age of youth, particularly in India, not around the world, where probably the youth are becoming less and less, but in the subcontinent at least, there are plenty of this thing. We have got a great distance about creating new job opportunities, and also equally important is about the delivery of justice. Now, let us do a reality check about the governance in India. There are two aspects of it. One is what we think very objectively looking at it, what it is. And secondly, what do people think about it? What are the perceptions? So perceptions are as important as a reality. I take a capsule of, say, last 10 years. I know that being a national security advisor in the current position, it may look that probably my figures or my facts are a little tilted or a little biased. But notwithstanding that, the facts are facts and they cannot be disputed. Terrorism in this country has been effectively countered. We had a major incident of terrorism on 5th July 2005. And we had the last one in 2013 in the hinterland. Except Jammu and Kashmir, which had been a theater of a proxy war or a covert warfare against Pakistan, which is a different ballgame, the whole of country has remained secure from terrorist attacks. And it is not that the efforts are not made. It is not that the people were not arrested. It is not the explosives were not recovered. Tons and tons of them have been recovered, even few of them only about 2 days back, where a very major group targeting certain places in India and targeting this thing, where continuously the new groups have emerged. Enemies have remained very active, but fortunately, and I think it's more of a good fortune of the country, that we can say that we have had no terrorist incident in the hinterland. The left-wing extremism has been reduced to less than 11% areas than what existed in 2014. Most of the districts which had been declared as the left-wing prone these things, they had been declared as safe. There's a greater integration of the tribal population. Shri Prabhat Kumarji has been governor of Jharkhand, rather the creator of the state, in the sense in the formative years. He is the one who guided it. Probably if you'll go, you'll find that there is a sea ocean, there's a change of this thing. Roads, communications, schools, health centers, employment opportunities, jobs that have been created for the even illiterate youth, development of art and handicrafts in the tribal areas had been very high. Northeastern insurgency, nobody talks about it. We had a bad incident in Manipur, but that was not insurgency. That was a sectarian conflict between the Meiteis and the Kukis. Of course, not that it is pardonable, it should be something that we say it is good, but the fact remains that I'm talking about as far as the insurgencies are concerned. The Northeastern insurgency, the very major groups have got. Bold and decisive counteractions have been taken against foreign and internal perpetrators of this violence. It has been ruthless, but according to law. It has been what the country should be doing to deter its enemies, and I think that deterrence has worked. There has been a fast and efficient delivery of services to people. There has been a people-centric governance, simplification of governance. There have been repealing of the archaic laws and enactments, and the new ones have been made. 1,552 obsolete laws have been repealed in the last 10 years, as against 1,300 in 60 years before that. New criminal laws for the country have been enacted, which are simpler, easier, more accountable, makes it mandatory to go for the scientific investigations, makes the forensic science examinations mandatory on another thing, and also simplifies various processes, both in substantive law and in the procedural laws. I'll give you an example. For example, say, all the police stations have been fully computerized. Data of the criminals is available on all India basis. There is a central data center of all the crimes, criminals, and the people associated with that. Throughout the city, any sub-inspector sitting in a police station can find access to the information that they want to have. Similarly, about issuance of passports, we used to have a long and cumbersome processes. The verification used to take very long time. There used to be some corruptions. Today, 25% passports are issued in 3 days, or less than that. 60% in 7 days, and more than 85% within 14 days. This has made it easier. There is a digital governance that has been this thing. In health, under Ayushman Bharat, the coverage of 5 lakh per family. Similarly, on the national economy, the GDP from $2.15 trillion in 2015 to nearly $4 trillion in 2025 has taken its global ranking from 10th to 5th, and mostly, probably, more likely, very shortly, it will be the 4th. The taxation system, the goods and services taxes. We used to have chungis and the barriers and this thing, and every point was a point of corruption, every point was a point of delay, every point was a point of hardship, both to the producers and the consumers, and the shopkeepers, the retailers, and today we find that it is centralized. Well, a lot of scope for improving, and changes have been made. But a great beginning has been made, and probably to the exchequer, to the Consolidated Fund of India, the earnings that are accruing through the GST are much more, and both the states and the center find the system much more effective and useful. Financial inclusions under Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, providing banking services to unbanked population, which had never thought that they could have their bank account. And now it's in crores. Similarly, the unified payment interface, it has revolutionized and simplified the financial transactions. Even you go to a rediwala and you give your credit card, he is able to provide you this. So by and large, we find that it has been the people-centric. It has eased the things. It has reduced the possible avenues of corruption or hardships to the persons. That is one point of view. But then let us see the other point of view. How are we perceived? World does not necessarily perceive us as an egalitarian, inclusive democracy which provides constitutionally guaranteed fundamental rights, has got the adult franchise, has got the equal rights for everyone, irrespective of their caste, religion, gender, or any linguistic identity. We have got many liberal and pro-poor legislations. We have also got an independent judiciary, actually very rightly too independent, and we have got very powerful institutions like the Election Commission, Comptroller Auditor General, the Union Public Service Commission to ensure that there is no governmental interference in these matters. However, global perceptions and projections do not carry this image of India. Whether it's on the district side, I had just got one study conducted about, let's say, last 3 months. What had been the articles, what had been the thinkings, what had been the surveys that had been conducted against India, about India. And we find that a large number of the global think tanks, some of the scholars, abetted and supported by the most of the things, the material that they get is from the Indian side, the Indian columnists, the Indian journalists, who think that the news is only, if it is something is a bad news, is the only good news. Because that's the only thing that they can think. So in corruption ranking, the global ranking, India was ranked 96th out of 180. That is, they said, the society or the government continues to be highly corrupt. They note about it that there is some truth in that we have not been able to wipe out corruption from all spheres and all stages. But we have brought about institutional changes to contain and control corruption. And probably many more are in the pipeline. In the global governance performance, which is measured about the regulatory framework and regulatory and infrastructure facilities, we are ranked 118th among 142 countries, which I think was very unfair. Even had it been so, we would not be getting so much of the foreign direct investment at the rate that we are getting. India is a very sought after destination by most of the global investors, even today. Rule of Law Index, the World Justice Project rated India 79th out of 142. Of course, it's a great improvement from the past, but in spite of that, I think we deserve to be much above that. The Press Freedom Index says India ranks as 151 amongst 182 countries. I don't know, what could be more freedom in India than the freedom of press, that they can write everything that they think is somebody's idea but does not have any substantial facts to support it. But it is all right. And then the social media and the freedoms that the people enjoy. Accountability, the Indian rating was 1.47%. It is true that the methodology adopted is not fair. There are certain biases. There are certain other factors, invisible factors also, which play a role in that. But there's also a need for us, for introspection, and to have self-criticism, to identify where are the shortcomings and what needs to be done. Not what the others are telling, but we ourselves experience. And I would like to allude to some very specific areas where I think the Indian governance needs much greater focus and much concerted efforts to achieve that. One is the need for greater accountability. I think I've already shot my time away. This thing of the greater accountability. Low tolerance for defaulters is necessary. Sympathy misplaced is the worst form of cruelty. Supporting or shielding the people who are wrong should be made as punishable and as this thing. Somebody told me, how can you bring this thing, the change, reduce the corruption in police? I said, it's a very simple method. Nobody will know about a corrupt police officer except his immediate superior. He is the one who comes to know about it first. If there is something adverse against a police officer, then let there be an adverse entry also on his thing that he cannot control corruption amongst his subordinates. He will see that he will bring down at least to 50%. Because then it is in his interest to see that the people below him do not become visibly corrupt at least. But if it is not, then he becomes a party to that. Second is the capacity building. Now, capacity building, I think, is important. Now, the new technologies, the new challenges, and the new vision of India to become a developed country. We need better training of people in the government at all levels, a specialization, greater understanding of the systems and the global practices and the incorporating the best practices. Also, the government's capacity for perception management and creating awareness. It is important. It is important because national will is affected when the country's image gets sullied. When people feel that our institutions are not dependable, when the people feel that our electoral system or our financial systems and others, there are not that levels of transparency and probity and moral standards that are adopted. That is bad for a nation's will. And I think one thing which is very important is that our institutions should be strengthened, but at the same time we should also ensure that the credibility of the institutions in the public eye is not eroded by disinformation, by hostile propaganda, or by vested political interests. These institutions are sacrosanct. They should be seen above politics. People's losing faith in these institutions, whether it is your defense forces, security forces, judiciary, electoral systems, Comptroller Auditor General, etc., that will be something which will be very, very disastrous. So I think these are the areas we have to focus on. Ladies and gentlemen, we are thinking of a Viksit Bharat. We are aspiring. We are doing everything that will go for Viksit Bharat. But let me tell you that you can never have a Viksit Bharat with an archaic governance structure, with the standards of governance which do not measure up to the levels of a developed country. So we have got to train ourselves, we have to equip ourselves, we have to organize ourselves, we have to bring about a convergence in our policy making and in our program making, and also a whole of the government approach in their execution. Our executive skills and capabilities have got to be enhanced substantially. Once again, sir, I am very grateful to you for giving me this opportunity. It had been indeed a great pleasure for me to interact with me and share some of my thoughts with you, but I can definitely tell you that the country is on the ascendancy, is doing very well, and it has got a great future, and with the efforts that every Indian is making today, every Indian who is becoming aspirational, every mother who wants a child to go to the best of schools even when it comes from a very low economic group and others, is something which is extremely boosting, morale boosting, and I'm very confident that the vision of Sardar Patel of a great India, of an integrated India, of a powerful India will be realized by this generation. Thank you very much.
Before I request Mr. Shanti Narayan to propose a vote of thanks, I'll request Mr. Prabhat Kumar to please give tokens of our appreciation to Shri Ajit Doval and to Dr. Harivansh. the NSA has very kindly accepted to answer a couple of questions. Anybody? Yes, the lady here, please.
I'm an educator, and I have a question from one of my students who is studying in grade 9. It's working. Yeah. So I'm an educator, and I bring a question from one of my students who's studying in grade 9, and he asked me if I get a chance, I should ask you this. I would like to read the question to you. Just a second, sir. So the question is about China, and he asks, sorry, just a second. Yes. He says, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on the evolving dynamics of India's relations with China, particularly in the context of the Belt and the Road initiatives expanding reach across Asia, Africa, and Europe, and China's increasing influence within BRICS. With recent shifts in global trade driven by US tariffs and changing economic alignments, many nations are reassessing their strategic and economic positions. Considering India's unique challenges, including ongoing border disputes, trade competition, and the need to maintain balanced relations with both Western and the regional
Can
partners.
we have the question and not the statement, please?
No, sir, this is a question.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you assess the long-term implications of these developments for India-China relations and for the broader global balance of power? Sorry, he just wrote a lot, so thank you.
Actually, this is not one question. This is a
So can you
bouquet
just
of
like,
questions,
yeah.
and actually each one of them
Thank
would
you.
require this thing. But let me tell you one thing. China is an important neighbor. And we have got areas of dispute with it, particularly on our border. We have also got some concerns about their defense activities. But we have got trade with them. We have been working with them on certain areas where we can cooperate, whether it's a trade, economic, this thing and others. As far as Belt and Road Initiative is concerned, right from the beginning, from the day one, India had said no to it, and India is not in support of it. India is not a member of it, and India has not participated nor allowed its territory to be connected to any of the BRI schemes and projects. And of course, we engage with them. We have got various types of mechanisms at various levels. We have got a special representative mechanism where we talk about border issues, where we conduct the strategic dialogue and other things. We have also got at the defense level. We have got at the level of our foreign minister, our external affairs ministers, our foreign secretaries and others. So it's an ongoing process. We are dealing with them. And I think we feel ourselves very confident and very we will be able to deal. It is an area of concern and priority for us, but it's not something that we feel that it is the thing. As far as the larger geopolitical decision concerned about the US policies, tariffs and others, it's a more complex and a complicated thing. It will take a much more time. But India is very clear about its core interests. India is very that well, it will take the right decisions which maximizes its own national interests.
So my name is Sandeep. I'm from ANI. My question to you is regarding the current geopolitical situation as far as America is concerned. We have seen how Pakistan, the nation which was in fact sidelined on the international forum, stood together with President Trump, and in fact, how will that, in fact, you also mentioned about terrorism. Do you think that such kind of alliance with Pakistan and America together, will that have an effect on India's territory by any which way, or what all efforts are we making to make sure that such kind of influence by America to Pakistan does not affect our border areas or our security?
Actually this does not concern the subject of my talk. nor even the topic in which we are dealing with it. So it will not be very appropriate for me to go into the areas which is not within our own agenda and others. As far as terror policy of India is concerned, it is too well known. Pakistan is a sovereign country. It can free to have its relationship with any country. What it thinks is best for it, it is for them to decide. As far as terrorism is concerned, we feel we are quite capable of protecting our interest and our people, and we will not allow any external or internal forces to do anything that will undermine our national security interests.
So, not going to outside things, I'm talking of India now. The low rate of conviction of wrongdoers in this country gives them the ability to continue doing what they are doing with liberty. So is there anything that we need to do as a country?
I think it's a very relevant question and a very important question, that whether our criminal justice system is strong enough to provide the deterrence, and also we convict the people so that we get an opportunity to reform them, or we get an opportunity also to deter them, and we also this thing as an example to others to not to do that. To what extent they are achieving these objectives, I think is very questionable. So there is a need for that. There are hardened criminals who I feel that they are not very deterred by the criminal system. The new type of crimes, certain types of crimes and the criminal activities have gone down. Like there was this thing of the organized criminals and the gangs, mafias, whether there was a sand mafia or there were this thing, an underworld of Bombay or this thing like that, you will find that their activities have gone down. And lot of action has been taken against them. But a new type of a criminal class is coming up, where we found it is more something which has to do with the social values. Say, crimes against women. They are not professional criminals, but at the same time, they have created a great sense of lack of safety and sense of well-being in the society. Similarly, about the things of the convictions of the hardened criminals is becoming more and more difficult as they are resorting to more of the technological systems. I don't have a time here to elaborate on that, but I'll tell you the new criminal laws as they have come, they have addressed this issue. That was the core of means one of the very important things, including the jail reforms, including the judicial reforms, including how to make the convictions more restrictive. That will require better training of the police, better prosecution, better conduct of the lower judiciary, and there are many things which are being done in that direction. I think that if we review the situation after 2 years, we will find that the situation has substantially changed. And if you have got others who are specializing on these matters, I would like them to see about this criminal administration system of this country. And again, it is still a work in the pipeline. If there are certain good suggestions that we can think of making the criminal administration system more effective, I think we'll certainly like to look into it.
Sir,
I'm. There's so many questions. Would you like to take more questions?
Okay, I'll take the last question.
Last question.
Last question.
Mike.
Mike,
okay.
General Saab.
General.
I'm Major General Khurana, retired. Thank you very much, sir, for a very illuminating talk. You have touched on our strengths, our progress, and you also talked about introspecting on the weaknesses. You mentioned very important point about the perception, whether it's perception within the country or perception abroad. And today's world, with the communications and the media being what it is, perception makes a very, very large difference. My point is, most of us as we travel abroad or even within the country, we get quite often questioned what is happening in our country. And it is all based on internal domestic politics. I know it's a very sensitive point that I'm raising, but can we, as a country which has got a future, which is looking up to achieve its potential, can we do something to improve our internal domestic politics to a manner where our perception about our country's potential, strengths, achievements are not degraded? I hope, sir, I've made my point. I'd like to have your view on this.
I think I must clap for this question. You are very right. And I don't think I have got an answer. The only thing that will make irresponsible elements within the society, or including in the political circles, is that if people become sensitive to it and they don't take it very kindly, when somebody goes outside and says certain things about the country, which he knows and everyone knows are not true, and that they are false. I don't want to give examples because I don't want to make it political, this is and others. You are not undermining, or you are not having a fair game of politics with your adversary. You are running down the country. And you are running down the country knowing that it's not true. You know, it is not a crisis of knowledge, it's a crisis of intention. We should do everything to see that we educate our people, we inform their people, we create better these things so that about the country's achievements, country's programs, there's a greater transparency in our governance. It should be done, and the government has not done it. It should continue to make efforts to see that it is done. But, for example, if somebody is trying to raise doubts inside and outside the country about the credibility of our electoral system, it is very unfortunate. That is the basis of our democracy. We pride ourselves as world's largest democracy. We pride ourselves in telling that is we had a continuous democracy. Amongst the developing world who got after independence, where the constitutional democracy started from the day one and has continued uninterrupted till now. Short this thing of emergency being an aberration, but still, there has been no change of government except through the ballot box. Now, it is no mean an achievement. Let us see how many examples within Asia or Africa or the other countries who are decolonized, who can claim that sort of a thing. We have had a constitution that has been amended, of course, to meet the requirements of the day, but there has been the continuity of the constitutional this thing. And we have taken our democracy right from the top to the village levels. And they are functioning village panchayat centers. They are very, very powerful institutions, and they are building up themselves. Now, if we would like to say certain things and make certain observations which undermine the credibility of this system of our governance, our democracies, our constitutional values, the core values of our constitution and others, that is very, very unfortunate. I hope that greater public awareness and a greater public assertion on these issues over a period of time will make people feel a little more responsible and grateful to the nation to which we all belong.
Sir,
but thank you, sir.
Sir,
it's my concern. I often think about it.
Sir,
why
very
people
small
do it. At one end, people are dying for this country. At one end, people are prepared to make any sacrifice. They are working day in and day out. You know it better as a former soldier and a person who has defended this country and others, how much of an effort and this thing goes, which is unseen, unheard, unsung, which goes into that. And somebody goes and makes a very casual sort of this thing, they tell us how many aircrafts are downed and things like that. That is very, very unfortunate. Anyway, thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of India International Centre and IC Centre for Governance, I have great pleasure in proposing a vote of thanks. We are deeply obliged to Shri Ajit Doval for accepting our invitation to deliver the 6th Sardar Patel lecture on governance. Sir, we are extremely grateful for taking time out from your onerous duties and sharing your thoughts on the significance of governance in the development and sustenance of a nation like ours. We are having a very volatile political environment in the country, but the way the government has been performing, it is a matter of great pride for us. We are also grateful to Dr. Harivanshji, Honorable Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, for agreeing to preside over this important event of the center and sharing his insights on the role of Sardar Patel in unifying this nation. Thank you, sir. Our grateful thanks also to the august audience who have joined us to make this program a success. Thank you very much.
Please join us for tea out to the veranda. Thank you.